let's talk about polling. So some interesting times for the Biden administration. On a macro level, we have to be honest, right? Things don't seem to be going as badly for them. Let's go ahead and put this up there on the screen. And it looks like the American people agree. President Biden, and this is for Gallup, shows that he's got a 6 percentage point bump up to 44%. His highest approval rating in a year. Now, it's still not great, underwater in terms of 44%, but not in the 38th percentile. And I think the reason actually that this matters in the context of major politics is that, look, for the president to not be above water is not a good thing, but Donald Trump was also never above 50% very often throughout his presidency. And what was always noteworthy to me is that Biden was actually less popular than Donald Trump when he was sitting previously at his 38th percentile. Now that he's at 44, that's actually right around where Trump was, and obviously Trump nearly got reelected to the presidency. So that puts him at least in some sort of contention to at least possibly contest again the 2024 election. And more importantly, it kind of scrambles how things were going to be with the midterms. As we've discussed, the Dobbs decision seems to have had a major impact, but also gas prices fell from $5 a gallon. I just checked this morning, $3.850. Still not great. Still $5.20 a gallon in California, but it's not $6 a gallon as it used to be.
The trend is in the right direction.
Not necessarily
people feel better
because of anything Biden has done, but it is what it is. And that was the major, pressure point on the Biden administration. On top of, he does seem to have some intra-party wins, having passed Inflation Reduction Act. That was something that I don't know if it'll necessarily energize a base, but people can say, oh, the president did something.
There's just a sense that he's got some mojo.
Right. So he got the CHIPS Act, he got the Inflation Reduction Act. There does seem to be things rolling in the correct direction. And let's put this up there, which is that the direct quote, and I think this is important, the improvement does put him in better standing before the midterms than actually 5 predecessors over the last 40 years. Reagan in 82, Clinton in 94, George W. Bush in 06, Obama in 2014, and Trump in 2018. Again, the reason that matters is we all remember how well the Democrats did in 2018, how well the Republicans did both in 2010, but also people forget the 2014 election. Clinton, massive wash in 94, and also Reagan in 82 took a, quote, shellacking as W did in 2006 as well. Now, we may not see the same level of shellacking. We could see a modest Republican gain in the House of Representatives. And, right now things are like 50-50 as to whether they're even going to really win the Senate at all. So if the Dems keep control of the Senate, that would actually be a major win, I think, by the Biden administration. Yes. And then really what it is that the House districts and the swings, how exactly that's going to play out, on top of course, Biden heading into the general election. I mean, previously, when he was sitting at 38% and sometimes even lower in some polls, Krystal, it was not inconceivable that he would not be able to run again in the presidency.
Yeah.
Not that he wouldn't still be probably the strongest Democratic candidate, just given, the bench that exactly exists at the elite level, but it was inevitable that somebody was probably going to primary him if he continued in Jimmy Carter level. Now, getting a little bit of a bump, it's still obviously he could fall. It's not like he's got the great managerial skills or whatever, but he's in a better position, and I think that's undeniable.
Yeah, I think that's right. The CBS News Battleground Tracker, they still show Republicans with an edge to win the House, but it's much more narrow. And there's a lot less margin for error on the Republican side. And, that's reflected in the special elections that we've been tracking here. The fact that in that New York special election in upstate New York, that Biden only won by 1.5 points, the Democrat was able to prevail against what was considered to be quite a strong Republican contender and really outperformed the polls by something like 8 to 10 points based on the poll that you were looking at. That was a really significant indicator of how much the ground has shifted from, if this was going to be a massive red wave election, you would expect a contest like that to not even be close. I mean, if Republicans are going to take the House, which they are still very much favored to do, they're going to have to win seats like that. And so the fact that they didn't was very, very eyebrow raising. They also point to a few other things that are interesting in this CBS News poll. So first of all, abortion, obviously, Roe versus Wade being overturned, that has completely changed the dynamics electorally where, people, especially white college-educated women who had been there for Democrats in 2018, been there for Democrats to defeat Trump in 2020, they were starting to back away. Well, now they're basically back in. Maybe not at the same levels as 2018, but much more solidly with Democrats than they were previously. And in these sort of suburban swing districts, that obviously matters a lot. The other thing that they point to here is Trump. the fact that he's back at the center of the news, that his candidates are the ones who prevailed in so many of these Republican primaries. You have way more voters saying that Republican candidates are extreme than saying that Democratic candidates are extreme. So Trump coming back in as this polarizing force has been really detrimental to Republicans. People are much more likely to say they are voting to oppose Trump than they are to say that they're voting to oppose Biden. So Republicans really wanted this to just be a referendum on Biden. You know, McConnell's strategy from the beginning, which at the time was a very smart strategy, is we're not going to put out any policy platform of our own. We are just going to focus on Biden is bad, inflation is high, kick out the Democrats. Now, things kind of out of their control, the Dobbs decision and Trump being back at the center of the news have made it very difficult to just have the midterms be a referendum. It is now much more of a choice. And on that front, Democrats have a much better shot than they did previously.
Yeah, let's put that abortion piece up because it's important to give context. 77% Dems say abortion is, quote, very important, then describe any other issue in that way. Neck and neck with guns and actually ahead of the economy and inflation. So if that is top of mind, then that is going to get people's out to the poll. Let's throw the next one up there, which is this is per the generic ballot. Still shows the Republicans at 47% and Democrats at 45%. Now, listen, you should, of course, always remember Republicans have been dramatically underestimated in every poll so far. However, this would kind of track with some of the special election results that we've seen. So whether it's accurate or not, I have no idea. In terms of the enthusiastic number, Republicans have a +7 spread. They used to, though, have a +25 or a +30. So really what it is you're seeing that number creep down. So I think right now it's multifaceted. We don't really know where things stand. And I would just say in general, it's complicated. You know, it's going to be one of those things where Republicans could win the House. It's not like that wouldn't be a victory and it would effectively end any sort of future legislative achievement by the Biden administration. But not having the Senate would be very bad. You could also have just a 1-seat gain by Republicans. It would still be a win, but it wouldn't even be close to where things are. I was actually reading today, Kevin McCarthy, if they only have a slight majority who take the House, he could be in some serious trouble for speakership. He would basically get, you know, the Freedom Caucus would smack him across the face and demand all kinds of things from leadership, which they've done previously to John Boehner and make his life miserable. Same with Paul Ryan. Could see that dynamic play out. So there's all kinds of interesting possibilities. So even Mitch McConnell, I mean, we don't know for sure if he's actually going to get fully elected, especially if there's a very slim majority. So we don't know yet, but, you know, where things stand, I would bet on, I mean, probably slight gain Republicans in the House. Senate, genuinely a toss-up. Like, I have no idea. And there's a lot of money still yet to be spent, both by the Democrats, but, you know, it's not like Republican billionaires are going to sit on their hands.
No, they're going to
massively spend in the month of October. I think some massive, massive checks are coming. As the RNC has said, they're out there pleading with their donors. They're like, we need some Senate money, folks, and we need it now.
Somebody's going to come through for them. Don't worry. They'll have plenty of cash. And, you know, ultimately, it matters to have money in these races, but I find that more of an indication of both sort of like financial mismanagement on the Republican side, and also the way that Democrats have caught up in terms of grassroots-based enthusiasm when you compare the grassroots fundraising totals on the Democratic side versus the Republican side. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.